Hello and welcome to Pesto Comics. So today we're going to do something that if you've been following this Substack newsletter, video, podcast thing that we've been doing, you know I like to use a milestone and use that to kind of gauge how far we've come. So we're doing a mid-year review of Pesto Comics. It'll be a little bit different than the full annual review we do at the end of every year. This time I just want to look at how the past 6 months have gone. We won't be talking about conventions as I haven't really been to many. The only one I actually tabled at so far was the collector's market at Gotham Central, and I'll be going to Retro Rocket Comics on July 18th and San Diego Comic-Con from July 22nd to 26th. And although I won't be tabling at San Diego Comic-Con, I'll be present, and there's going to be some things I'll be doing there that I will be sharing with folks once I'm allowed to share said things. But the point being, I don't have too much to talk about conventions. So instead today, we're going to stay very focused. We're going to talk about 3 pillars of the business. The first one being the direct market, the second one being crowdfunding, and then the third one, kind of not really the comics domain, but talking about books. And then I'll kind of give you an idea of where this is all going and what I expect the second half of 2026 to look like. Let's get into it. So the first pillar, the direct market. So this was the first time that we actually have been on store shelves. And from Parts Unknown #1, absolutely blew away any expectation I had. We got our first book out on Free Comic Book Day, and it happened to be a 5th Wednesday, which we know is always a little slender. So From Parts Unknown had a great opportunity to fill a void that the big 2 are leaving. So had a great time launching From Parts Unknown #1. Very happy with the results of that book. That was followed up very quickly by From Parts Unknown #2, of course. And we have #3 that would have launched yesterday. Plus we had the FOC for #4, which would have been on the Monday prior. So From Parts Unknown is out there in the direct market. Very happy with the results of #1, but we took some lessons that we're going to follow through with for SNIP coming in October. One of the biggest ones is retailer incentives. So we did a lot of work to push From Parts Unknown #1, and we kind of curtailed that from 2, 3, 4, and onward. We kind of hoped that the work from #1 would have carried through to the whole series, but one thing that we didn't anticipate was how much the retailer discounts actually made it easier for retailers to be able to stock the shelves. It's something that in hindsight makes a ton of sense. Of course, that's what we should have done. But when retailers feel like they don't have to take as much of a risk with an unknown property, they'll be a little more loose with ordering. And that's what we found with issue 1. All kinds of stores ordered from coast to coast, and it was great. For issue 2, they really did rely on their pull list. They relied on readers to say, hey, I enjoyed this book, I would like issue 2. So we had the expected drop-off that you would have from issue 1 to an issue 2, but maybe that drop-off could have been a little less if we continued those incentives that we had with issue 1 and carried them throughout the series. So for SNIP coming in October, we're going to have those incentives for the entire series. So issues 1 through 5 will all be available as retailer bundles. So if you're a retailer listening to this, just know what you enjoyed with issue 1 of From Parts Unknown, you will see for every issue of SNIP coming in October. Hopefully, this makes it a little easier for you to make it available on the shelves. And for you as a reader, what the goal of all this is that if you are late, if you didn't pre-order the next issue of SNIP, hopefully your retailer ordered it. If you were late in pre-ordering From Parts Unknown #2, there's a good chance that your retailer may not have ordered it. Meaning you can't follow through with the series now, and that cascades from issue 3, 4, and 5. So not only does it hurt us, but it hurts you as a reader who can't actually get the end of the story that you hope to get. So by making it a lot easier for retailers to put the entire series on their shelves, you can show up 2, 3, 4 months later and get the entire series in your hands. And that's really the whole point of this. I want as many people to be able to read these books as possible. I don't want it just to be the people that are tuned in to indie comics specifically to be able to pick it up. I want somebody who strolls in because they heard about Absolute Batman and they say, oh, this looks cool, and pick up a Pesto Comics book too. And that can only happen if there are books sitting on the shelves unsold. There's got to be some room for walk-ins, and that's a risk on the retailer. So Pesto Comics will be taking on that risk going forward just to make sure that there are copies for you on the shelves, even if you didn't pre-order. So hopefully we have something good to report on with how that went at the end of the year. So the other pillar, something that I thought we'd be doing a lot more of this year, is crowdfunding. So there's only 2 campaigns that we launched this year. My goal was to do at least 3, but we had some difficulties in getting some books together, and there's a lot of focus that I was putting on the direct market that actually took me away from getting these artists going. So we didn't get nearly as many crowdfunding campaigns as we wanted. So we started with SNIP 1 and 2, and then we followed that up just under the wire to call it the first half of the year with Naked Kaiju Woman #3, which is live right now. So if you haven't backed it, you still got time. And that's a Kickstarter exclusive. So we just talked about the direct market for a few minutes. This won't be hitting the direct market. So if you do want a copy, make sure you go check it out on Kickstarter. Naked Kaiju Woman #3. It's going to be available throughout July. So you do have time, but make sure you don't forget. So remember that. Naked Kaiju Woman #3, Kickstarter only. And we're not sure when #4 will be ready, so this might be your only chance for a little while. So make sure you check it out. Anyways, we only got those 2 campaigns going. And I'm recording this just 3 days into the campaign, a whole week before this post ever goes out. So all I know is that the campaign's doing really well. It's the best campaign of the year, easily. It's already made more than SNIP did through its whole campaign, so very happy with the results of Naked Kaiju Woman. But looking back on SNIP, I feel like we could have pushed that a lot better, and we could have really made it clear why to support a Kickstarter campaign when you know that it's coming out on the direct market. Not everyone's a collector, and that's really who we're targeting now with these non-Kickstarter exclusive campaigns, these ones that will hit the direct market. We're really trying to find readers that want something special, that want something ahead of time, that want something that they're not going to be able to get in the direct market, something a little different, something unique, something with a low print run and a very high print quality. So that's not everybody. Most people are going to get the book through the direct market, and that's totally understandable. That's why the goals that we set for these books that are planned to hit the direct market aren't nearly as high. They're really intended to just help us produce the book, to make sure that the book exists so that it can get to the direct market, but also give those early adopters something special that they wouldn't get otherwise. Not just an early look into the book that'll be coming out for months down the road, but also something unique and something that only they would have by supporting early on. And note what I just said there for the future, but what we're going to do is make sure that we always have something special for folks that make sure that these books can get made. You guys are the lifeblood of all of this. The direct market's great. It really does help get new readers in the door, but you guys are the ones that make it all possible for us to even get readers, period. So you guys mean a ton, and you're always going to be very, very important to the business. So we didn't get nearly as many done in the first half of the year as we wanted, but it could have been worse. We did pretty well with the couple of campaigns. And then there's one asterisk, one little different thing, which was we had the fulfillment for Big Smoke Pulp Volume 2. That is still ongoing. So the physical books have made it out to people. The digital books have made it out to people. The one thing that I didn't anticipate taking as long as it did, the audiobook. So I'm actually producing this myself. I'm reading out all these books, and I thought I would be a lot better at this than I actually am. The reason is when I do these videos, I'm doing them off the cuff, because how I typically do it is I have my points that I want to hit, and then I just start talking. I can't do that with an audiobook, obviously. And it's words that weren't written by me. I did a little bit of light editing, and I mean very light editing on these books, just for diction and to make sure that they format well. But really, I barely touched the prose that I'm reading. So some of it isn't as easy for me to say as it was for me to read. Now that my tongue is getting twisted trying to read this audiobook, it's taking me so much longer than I thought it would. So I think it's going to be really good by the end of it. And I really wanted to make sure that it's a high quality, something that anyone who listens to audiobooks wouldn't be thrown off by immediately. Like, they're going to listen to it and it's going to sound like any other audiobook. It's just going to be me reading it. It's taking a little longer than I had hoped. So fulfillment hasn't technically been finished for Big Smoke Pulp Volume 2 because of that audiobook. So my goal is to have that done and closed off by the fall. And then when we start talking about books in the future, I will not be reading those ones. I will hire that out as needed because it's just so much more work than I thought it was going to be. That's on me, but here we are. And this is a great segue for our third pillar, which is the books. The other campaign that I was planning on launching at the beginning of the year when it comes to books was the book Switch Restart. So some good news here, actually. We've been included in BackerKit's Printopia. So I mentioned other crowdfunding platforms. It looks like BackerKit's going really heavy into the prose side of things, and that's something I'm going to explore. So without getting into the what's coming too much, Backlot Babylon's still going to launch on Kickstarter with the first trilogy, but I'm really looking at what we can do going forward beyond that, and I'm thinking once the first trilogy kicks off, we'll see how it does, and we'll likely move the rest of the series onto BackerKit. But the main thing we're doing is Switch Restart, the novella that I promised that I would launch last year, should be ready in time for September, and now I have a very firm deadline because it's part of Printopia. So you can expect to find that on BackerKit. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a really silly story. It's something I've reworked a couple times. It was a little more head hoppy. When I first started, it was going to be multiple different protagonists, and I was doing something really experimental and wild. And I think I'm just going more to the pulpy sci-fi story about a tech CEO who comes up with a new technology and it's used against him. And now he has to claw his way back to his life, but does he deserve it? And that's the big question. So I think Switch Restart's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe it's something I could read out if it's short enough. I don't know. We'll see. but I'm leaning towards just getting an actor and getting it done so that the book gets out to people much quicker than is happening with Big Smoke Pulp Volume 2. I would say that I'm experienced at a lot of things, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm still very new at and I'm still learning. So this was a big lesson for the beginning of 2026, that although I think I can do it all, I'm certainly learning that I can't. And although it doesn't necessarily fit in any of these pillars, one of the biggest lessons that I learned of this year is learning how much is too much. And I don't mean that in, I think these things aren't valuable. There's certain things that are very valuable. Lettering is something that I've been doing with all my comics since the beginning. And now I've handed that off to Matthias Zanetti. So he's an expert in lettering. He's already improved the lettering on Naked Kaiju Woman 3 from what I was capable of doing by so much, but also has taken that off my plate and has allowed me to focus on other things that need my attention. So I'm very grateful for that. The other thing is production design. So Travis Escarfoleri has been doing the back pages from Parts Unknown and putting together the covers, and most importantly, working with the printer to make sure that all the pages line up correctly and basically doing all of the formatting and all the things that would take me quite a bit of time and are very important, but would pull focus from me getting more books written and getting more artists working and making sure that all of the other things of the business are going smooth. So now I have people who are focused and dedicated and experts in their segment of comic book production working on those things. So understanding when it's time to offload the work. It's something that I always had in mind and something that I always thought as the business grows, I'll certainly have to start handing things off. I didn't expect it to be so soon, but here we are. The direct market is a beast, I'll tell you right now. The expectation to have a book out every month, it's something that's always weighing on you. When you have a book coming out, there's also a book that is being solicited, and you're dealing with printers and you're dealing with the production and you're dealing with all kinds of different things, and you become a business manager as much as a creative. So having people that can focus on the creative and do it at such a high quality is worth every penny. So I'm very happy to have learned this lesson and finally followed through with it at the beginning of 2026. So that's the biggest thing that I've taken out of the first half of this year. So where's this all going? Where's the back half of 2026 leaning? The big thing that's coming out, at least in the direct market, is SNIP. So issue 1 comes out on October 7th, but we're also doing a big special promotion for local comic shop day. We had a special early release variant cover that is done by Riccardo Ficini. So the only way you can get it is by going to stores on local comic shop day, and only certain stores will be carrying this book. So it's going to be super limited, and I'm very excited for it. And much like we did with the beginning of From Parts Unknown, we're going to have some freebies that'll be handed out as well, including trading cards and stickers and the like. So there's going to be some cool stuff out there for people to get for free, but also to get the limited edition covers. And we're making it very easy for retailers to pick up the regular series, issues 1 through 5. So the goal is you'll be able to find SNIP anywhere you buy your comics. If they picked up From Parts Unknown, they'll certainly have SNIP. But if they didn't, maybe this will be the thing that tips them over and they'll be able to pick up the whole series of SNIP for you as well. So as always, make sure that you talk to your retailer. The FOC for that special variant comes up at the end of August, but it's already available to be ordered now. And SNIP number 1 is going to be available to order in the next couple of weeks once the new round of solicits comes out. As far as crowdfunding goes, more SNIP to talk about. So we finished the series of SNIP on Kickstarter. So issues 3 through 5, we're doing 3 issues this time, will be available in one campaign. And we're going to do shorter campaigns now. Naked Kaiju Woman, we did the 30 days because it's a book that really lives or dies on Kickstarter. It's the only place for it. But as far as every other campaign goes that is going to end up in the direct market, we're going to shorten these Kickstarter campaigns. So it's going to be a blink and you miss it kind of situation. It'll be just 18 to 21 days in and out for each campaign, especially when it's hitting the direct market. So for SNIP number 3 through 5, you got 18 days to go pick up the end of this series. If you didn't pick up the first 2, you'll be able to pick up the whole series all at once. And again, these are Kickstarter exclusive editions. So we go very art forward. We don't have the whole trade dress on the front. It's really just Ricardo's art or any of our variant cover artists' art. And speaking of variant covers, those are very limited print runs. So once the campaign is done and I'm out of copies, I'm out of copies. And that's it. They won't be reprinted. It's not something I'm going to be making available in future campaigns. If you've tried to pick up From Parts Unknown as a great example, you won't be able to do that on future Kickstarter campaigns because it's now in the direct market. So they're effectively pulled from Kickstarter. And this is kind of our approach going forward. So very limited window for people who really want to support Pesto Comics and everything we're doing, but also want something special that's actually super limited and won't be reprinted ad nauseum as I do with the earlier books. So Unlimited Udo, Stay Cool, Crazy Latte, Thing Called Love, those are going to keep being available, at least for the foreseeable future. But for those books that are destined for the direct market, it's now or never. So SNIP 3 through 5, We'll be following that up with another series by the From Parts Unknown team and Daniel Caval and JP Jordan. This time we'll be getting help from Matthias Zanetti on lettering as well. And this book is Crimson Frontier. So Daniel's already delivering pages on this. It looks absolutely incredible. It's a Western that takes place on Mars, and the Martians and the humans do not get along. And of course, what happens? A third party drops in, and Neptunians say, you know what? We don't like either of you. We're going to wipe this place out unless you figure it out. So now these two warring factions have to work together to get these outsiders out of their town. It's a short series. We're going to launch the first two this year, and then the last two at the beginning of next year. So you'll be able to get the whole thing in your hands very soon before it goes to the direct market. So again, if you don't get it while it's on Kickstarter, you're going to have to wait till it's in stores, and it won't be the special edition that you get on Kickstarter, but you'll get the whole story. So however you want to support Pesto Comics, I appreciate it. It does mean a ton. And then of course the books that are coming out. So Switch Restart is on backer kit for Printopia. I mentioned that earlier. And then we'll have the Leo Lucas trilogy, the first 3 books in this epic tome of novellas that I have. So the thing with novellas, they're very short and breezy. They're meant for you to read in an afternoon and just have a good time. And they're really pulpy. I always talk about how I love the pulp genres, and this is definitely that. This is the prose version of the pulp genres that I love. I want you to be able to pick up this book and be able to breeze through it and absolutely feel thrilled and love it and move on to the next one. So we're doing 3 at a time so you can feel like you get your money's worth too. So this will be interesting because it's a kickoff of a whole new initiative, something that I've been planning for months now, and I keep pushing back. And it looks like in the back half of 2026, we're finally ready to launch this. So I'm excited to finally share this series with everyone. So stay tuned for that. And then one last thing that's kind of in the air that we're still trying to figure out is the digital strategy for Pesto Comics, specifically with the books that go in the direct market. So you can get those while backing rewards on Kickstarter very easily. But again, once they hit the direct market, I pull those from future campaigns. So as far as digital copies go, there isn't really a home for them. And that's something we're trying to figure out. So I'm working with Prana to reach out to 2 of the bigger digital platforms out there. I'm not going to say which, but you could probably guess. So the goal is to do what everyone else is doing with day and date on digital platforms. Now, I will say this right off the bat, it's not Global Comics. So if you're hoping to just wait it out and go on Global Comics and get them with your gold subscription, we can talk about what the financials look like on that, but it's totally unsustainable for us because we would be getting pennies per copy and we would have to shut down business the next morning just based on how little return we get on those. So not Global Comics, but now you could probably guess where they might end up based on what's left out there. So a lot to learn, a lot of interesting things we're going to be coming with in the future. I mentioned on previous newsletters that there's also projects outside of comics that I'm working on as well. Those are still very slow going. The timelines to get those done are on a totally different spectrum than comics are entirely. So we're talking about our trading card game and some video games and all these things, and they just take much longer. So I'll be talking about those for months and months yet. I don't expect any truly huge, big traction on them quite yet, but of course, I'll share when that happens. The other thing that we kicked off at the beginning of 2026 is the reader and fans mailing list. If you don't want any of the fluff that I'm giving you now, if you don't want the behind the scenes and the talk about all of the things that are happening with Pesto Comics, you just want to know when is the book available, what's the FOC, the readers and fans mailing list will get you that. I also send discount codes and things like that through there. So if you just want the news of Pesto Comics, make sure you go to pestocomics.kit.com, sign up there, or go to pestocomics.com. You'll see a subscribe button in the top right that you can click there. And you can just find all the information of what's coming out on pestocomics.com. So I really hope that I'm making it easier for you to support Pesto Comics. So with all that, I want to thank you. And I really want to thank you guys who have supported Naked Kaiju Woman #3. The campaign is going to the end of July. So if you haven't yet, please give us your support. It means a ton. This book is the one that makes all the other books possible. So you might see a big funding number. And although that is great to see, all that money goes into making other books. So I personally am not living off this money, but Pesto Comics and the artists that work for Pesto Comics are the ones that are appreciative of this campaign doing so well. This campaign is very important to the lifeblood of Pesto Comics. So please lend your support. Naked Kaiju Woman #3, available on Kickstarter to the end of July. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here and caring about how the business of Pesto Comics goes. It means a ton. It means a ton to not just me, but to indie comics as a whole. So as always, I appreciate you being here. We'll talk again next week. Have a good one.